feel like it's been a while since anyone's been talking about the Conjuring Universe. And I'm not sure that it's the box office powerhouse it used to be, but there's a new entry on the way soon, so I figured we should dip into another round of films that are knockoffs or are just inspired by this series, because no shocker, there's a ton of them. So let's dive in and see what we can whip up. Should have said conjure up, right? That would have made more sense. Number 10. Let's kick this off back in 2021, right as The Conjuring 3 was coming out. So we got this little number called Conjuring The Genie. It's got young Gina here who is reading about jinns, and that night one appears to her and asks her to make a wish, which is clearly a guy in a mask. Her wish is to never see him again, and I mean, come on. How could you not realize how that can be subverted? I'm guessing your first thought is, I bet he makes her blind. And you're close. She pokes her eyes out, so same thing. And then it's a low-budget British horror film, so this girl is here, Sarah Cohen, and she was previously on this channel in Bad Nun, Witches of Amityville Academy, and Curse of Humpty Dumpty. Young Morgan here is recovering from the death of her father and struggling in school, and a professor gives her an assignment to do a paper on urban legends. And her mom is Nicola Wright, who was also in Bad Nun, Witches of Amityville Academy, and The Curse of Humpty Dumpty, but was also in Jack in the Box, which I've also had on here at one point. And the director is Scott Jeffrey, who also directed Bad Nun and Curse of Humpty Dumpty, but not Witches and not Jack in the Box. But the rest of his filmography is like a British asylum with a number of mockbuster titles on there. Morgan and her friends get together, and this guy brings up the wishing demon, and if you trap it, it has to give you a wish if you release it, and they call it up. This lady is here, Amanda Jade Tyler, also from Bad Nun and Witches, but she was also in Amityville Scarecrow and Rise of the Mummy, both featured here because the crossover in talent in the British low-budget horror scene is high. The djinn shows up to girl number 2, who wishes to be seen as perfect, and he turns her into a doll, which, yeah, I'm not sure if that's the best twisting there, and it's very clear that this is trying to pass itself off as a Conjuring Universe movie, or at least confuse you into thinking that with the title, but it's more a take on Wishmaster than anything else. I mean, it's the djinn, and he's granting wishes, but perverting them and collecting souls. He keeps attacking, and you know what this guy looks like? Like, he reminds me of the dude from Necrogoblicon. It's mostly pretty fine, but it's funny because they reuse some effects stuff that they had from other movies, like the mummy suit from Rise of the Mummy, and this rat man from a movie called The Mutation. And this even had a sequel in 2022. Number 9. Feels weird that I'm doing this, but the next movie on the list is called Conjuring Baba, and it's from 2022. And according to the film's plot description, it's also about an evil genie. Kind of wacky that in the space of about a year you had 2 movies about demon genies that both came out around the Conjuring film and tagged the word Conjuring on there to be confusing. But this one starts with a fight in a field with one guy in this mask and wig, and then we have this girl doing a video about paranormal activity with this convincing floating bottle and shadow attack. And oh boy, it turns out that this was directed by Jeff Carroll, who directed Death Pledge, a movie that I recently featured on my list of worst horror movies of all time. This has this guy going into a comic book store to try and sell a genie's lamp, but when they don't buy it, he just gives it to them, and then he's randomly arrested. So this guy just takes it, and oh no, the Hotep show is back. And yeah, this was a big part of Death Pledge. And they mentioned the events of that movie, as it turns out that this is a sequel to it. Yes, it's not mentioned anywhere on listings about the film, but it's the same spirit and characters, so this is Death Pledge 2, I guess. This guy calls up a genie with the bad lip reading sound effect. Please. And oh wow, is this dude in brown face right here? I mean, I guess he's not doing a bad Indian accent, so there's that, I guess. So there's two plots going on at once as the genie is going around and collecting women for his master, and the spirit of Baba being brought back. And yeah, it's not good, but it's about 50 times better than Death Pledge. It had some silly fun moments that I found enjoyable in the way that I like backyard movies.
Get back, get away from me!
My master needs you.
Number 8. Here's another one from 2020, a little before Part 3 of The Conjuring came out, but still in the swing of that whole universe's popularity, and it's Conjuring the Book of the Dead. There's an opening crawl that tells of a book that has some runes and symbols in it that can curse the reader, and an author gets into a car crash and puts him into a coma. And there's a crime spree coming on, and I guess there's a superhero. There's a publishing company that gets a book by H.P. Lovecraft.
Lovecraft talked about the Book of the Dead, or what he called his Necromonicon.
Necromonicon? Huh. Haven't heard of that one. George here is a comic book writer, and he's assigned to do a biography on Aleister Crowley, and he goes to talk to Bai Ling. And George is played by Stephen Crane, and he also wrote and directed the film under the name Richard Driscoll. And it's kind of hard to know what other films he's directed, because IMDb links back to a page for Richard Driscoll that appears to be another person entirely. And in fact, that guy's bio flat out says that he is not the horror director Richard Driscoll, but it looks like their filmographies have become blended. It's weird. It does a bit of knocking off of Hellraiser and then just sort of wanders around, and I think just edits in clips from other movies that aren't connected under the premise of things that George is writing. And then the late Tom Sizemore shows up for a moment, and of course Driscoll / Crane wrote himself a sex scene with Ling, and Michael Madsen is here too, because I guess someone had some blackmail material on several celebrities to have them show up for a day or something, like the Doctor even, or Lynette Anthony, who he also makes sure to give himself a sex scene with, of course. And this is just a weird, incomprehensible mess of a movie. I'm not even really sure what it's about. Number 7. Let's switch gears for a second and move away from things that just jammed Conjuring into the title and show off an Annabelle knockoff instead with 2018's Curse of the Witch's Doll, which was released in between the second and third entries of those films. This is yet another British film, and hey, England, what the hell, guys? Did y'all just really like the Conjuring universe and we're like, let's do as many knockoffs as we possibly can? So Adeline and her doctor move into this big old spooky house, and it's set during World War II, and they're in this house to get away from the bombings back home. But it seems that something is sneaking around at night. Adeline's husband is in the war, and Chloe discovers this. Oh, come on. You're calling this a doll? Like, I could see if this was supposed to be modern times with a bunch of more evil brat dolls and such that are out there. But you're telling me during World War II that a doll that looked like this was just accepted as, oh, this is just a quirky doll. No, this is the sort of thing that went right into the fire. While playing hide and seek, Chloe just up and vanishes, and a voice tells her that a witch has her. And this one was directed by Lawrence Fowler, and to prove that the world of the UK horror market is an incestuous clan, he also directed both of the Jack in the Box movies, which I mentioned earlier, although the cast in this one seems to not be the regular crew. We're given some backstory about a previous tenant of the house, a woman named Mary, and her spirit is said to be angry. And when the witch herself shows up as opposed to just the doll, it's this iffy makeup that's right here. At right around the 1 hour mark of the movie, they throw a big curveball that changes up the focus of the entire movie, and it shifts into this sort of anthology format, going from story to story with the bridging element of the creepy doll. Like, it's not bad, but it is a little dull, and I can never get over how silly that doll looks. Number 6. Considering that I'm putting this out around the release of a sequel to The Nun, it seemed only fair to check out one that's a ripoff of that. So let's check out Evil Nun from 2018, the year of release of the first Nun movie. It's an Italian film and is in found footage style and has this vlogger girl who keeps getting interrupted by mysterious sounds and is then murdered by a man wearing a clown mask because she's blocked him from the channel. But then it transitions to a movie about a post-apocalyptic virus, and it appears as if this is actually an anthology horror film featuring 8 different shorts. It also looks like it was originally titled and marketed as After Midnight and pushed the whole nun thing a lot less. But hey, it was 2018, and there was a bigger budgeted theatrical film to piggyback off of, so why not? A third short involves a man facing down demons in his house, including this dude with horns and a very visible seam on his bald cap. Seriously, look at this thing. The next tale has a guy taking care of his sister who's in sort of a broken state and the supernatural events to follow. The next segment finally gets us to our nun, and I guess the reason why they switched up the title for the video market. And yep, they just took a look at Valak and then hit the old copy, paste. And comedically enough, it's one of the quickest shorts on here. The rest of them are a tale of a woman being kidnapped by a masked lunatic, a sort of throwback stalker segment with some nice lighting and cool soundtrack that's pretty funny. There's then one about a couple lost in the woods, stalked by some sort of creature, which sort of gives birth. And yeah, all in all, this overall film has very little to do with the Conjuring universe, but I guess they were cool with it if you thought so. Number 5. Let's stick with nun ripoffs and check out a belated one and look at 2021's The Black Nun. It starts with the man himself, Mark Polonia, strolling in. And hey, I didn't know that this was a Polonia film. But hey, when I go to look it up, it turns out it's not really a Polonia jammer, and that he just produced it and did camera work on it and edited it. But it was written and directed by, holy crap, Jeff Carroll again, director of Death Pledge and Conjuring Baba. How on earth did I avoid this guy for so long and then covered 3 of his 6 movies in the space of a couple of months? It has a young girl buying a new house because moving is still the greatest terror. Then there's a nun on the door, a black nun, and the real estate guy says it's on all the neighborhood doors. It says it's a Jewish mezuzah. And first up, a mezuzah is a very specific thing and looks a very specific way. And do you know what that way is not? A freaking Christian nun. They get into their new place.
Oh, I knew there had to be some hoteps around here.
Oh, do I smell a hotep show coming up?
Welcome to the Hotep Show. Hotep, I am Dr. Brian.
I knew it! Cue the glasses guy!
It's way more than DC music or Miami bass. It's the way that we shape these places.
It also brings up the events of Death Pledge, so this is all in one universe. And I might have uncovered a secret cinematic universe here. The Jeff Carroll Hotep universe, the JCHU. And I'm on board. Let's go with it. They end up taking the little nun shrinking down and are soon haunted by the Black Nun, with some spooky face makeup going on. After the sightings get too intense, they bring on the Hotep guys to help them out. And what's hilarious is that the nun is Miss Flossie, who was the spirit mentioned in Conjuring Baba. So this is all linked together. And she was a slave who was almost free and was then betrayed. So her spirit is vengeful. And I love that when they contact her, you can really tell that the actress is having issues talking through these fake teeth.
I did not get to live mine, so why should you live yours?
Later on in the movie, Baba appears and he helps them take on the nun in some pretty outstanding battle scenes. And yep, pretty silly, but very fun stuff.
Hoteps.
Oh, wait, hold on, baby, I got
We
you.
need some hoteps. Yeah, hotep. Uh-huh. That's right. Yeah.
Number 4. Let's hit up another one doing the whole Annabelle thing with 2021's Baby Doll, which is from Italy and starts off with some sort of black magic ritual that uses a doll, that looks more like the actual doll that Annabelle is based on than Annabelle herself. There's a group of students who are headed up on a trip together, and when they arrive at the house, it's a big, spooky-looking place. The caretaker warns them about the danger within the house, and they start to party down. Eventually, they find the not quite Raggedy Ann-looking doll on the grounds, and it starts showing up around the area. And this is one where there's not a ton of information available. It looks like it had a decent-sized budget and was made in Italy, but I guess for the American market, and the director was Manfred Lozial, and this is the only thing that they did in the industry. Of course, we don't really see the doll do anything, and it's more about it having an influence on people, and hoo boy, this one is pretty low-key. And when I say that, I mean the key is like dropped on the floor and then slipped down the elevator shaft low. There's just so much wandering around and killing time, and it doesn't even take advantage of its cool location to do a whole atmosphere thing. Like, parts of where they are just look like someone's Airbnb or something, and then other parts of it are all gothic castle, so you get no consistent vibe about the place that they're staying. Number 3. Our next entry is another example of just having a movie that has nothing to do with the Conjuring universe that doesn't feel like a part of it, but they just pop the word Conjuring in the title and hope for the best with 2021's Conjuring the Plastic Surgeon, which also goes under the title of Dr. Carver. It starts with a woman receiving a facial burning from some sort of demon doctor, and then we meet a young model taken advantage of by her photographer. But she's then let go by her agency for being too old. And this is a British low-budget horror film, and someone needs some information online. So who's there to offer the info? Sean Phillips, of course, and she's prompted to get plastic surgery to save her career. She gets invited to a special retreat by an exclusive doctor, and this lady is here, once again, showing the shared actors in these films, as she was also in Curse of Humpty Dumpty, but yep, Amanda Jade Tyler is in this one as well. She's instructed to look into a mirror and call Belphegor, which she does, Candyman style, and she says she wants to change her nose. They get mysterious messages that say that the cost of their surgeries is to reveal their darkest secrets, and no one thinks it's weird that they're doing these surgeries in someone's house in a non-sterile looking room, and the doctor appears to be covered in blood. It soon becomes apparent that the doctor is more interested in body modification than rhinoplasty, and the director here is Louisa Warren, who has really made a career out of this. I know I made a joke earlier about Scott Jeffrey being a one-man UK asylum, but Warren's got him beat. I've featured her on the channel so far with Bride of Scarecrow on my Scarecrow list, the Tooth Fairy movies, and The Mermaid's Curse from the Mermaid list, and a lot of her films use the same general group of actors that we've already discussed. And yeah, like most of the other Warren films, it's fine enough. My biggest criticism with her works is that they're just always almost good. But this one seems to have a little less production value than usual, but it's not like a difficult watch or anything. Number 2. This next one is also sort of a weird one to include here, but we're talking about 2022's The Harrisville Haunting, the real Conjuring house. It's weird because it claims to be a documentary, not a fictional film, and has a group of paranormal investigators. Matt here says that he's been obsessed with the paranormal since an encounter in 2011 and has since then traveled the country and visited haunted areas as part of a YouTube show called Devil's Hour. After seeing The Conjuring, he decides to go to the house in Harrisville where the original events were meant to take place. He goes with several other paranormal-themed YouTubers, and they head to the house on what they say is March 16th, 2020. They sit down with a couple of investigators who were some of the first people to check out the house back in the day, as well as the woman who lived in the house and had the experiences that the film was based on. They go over all the events that the movie dramatized, interspersed with some footage of some spooky stuff that happens while they're there, which mostly amounts to them just pointing cameras down hallways and saying, hello, but oh man, a toy car falls down, and a voice appears on a tape that definitely wasn't pre-recorded. They then encounter some weird phenomenon in the house, and here's why I included this. Ultimately, all of these ghost hunter shows and stuff like this, in the end, these things really aren't all that different from found footage horror films. They just have less interesting endings. After encountering a series of scripted encounters with ghosts in found footage films, you usually get the revelation of what the thing is and some sort of attack and resolution. In ghost hunting shows, it's essentially the same thing, except the ending, surprise, surprise, has no ghost appear. But the problem here is that this movie is over 2 freaking hours long and doesn't really have that much to do with the story of the original haunting. It's 2 hours of guys walking around in night vision asking, is anything there? And then being shocked when a rocking chair moves that they're pretty obviously moving themselves. Okay, so there you have it. 10 movies that definitely take a bit of inspiration from the title of The Conjuring. And
Hey, Josh. Hold up.
oh, hey, it's Calvin Modier McCarthy, director of Amityville Poltergeist, which I've definitely covered in the Amityville timeline. What are you doing here?
You said that you were going to cover 10 movies. You only did 9.
I did?
Yeah. I mean, you literally just went to number 2, and then you did your, all right, that's it. You did your whole wrap-up thing.
Huh. Damn. Yeah, you're right. It looks like I'm short a Conjuring ripoff movie.
You can call it a ripoff if you want. I don't really call it a ripoff. But, yeah, I do have one Conjuring movie that you should cover. Conjuring The Beyond.
That's a good possibility. How big is the word Conjuring on the cover?
Oh, it's real big.
Then let's do it. Number 1. Our final film here is, of course, Conjuring The Beyond. And look at that poster, and look at how big that word Conjuring is and how little The Beyond is. So hey, that's a question for you, Calvin. What came first? Was it always tagged with a Conjuring title, or was that added after production started?
The original title for the movie, I had a lot of trouble coming up with. The working title for it was just called The Sleep Demon or something like that, just based on sleep paralysis. But really early on in the process of the pre-production with Breaking Glass, they made it pretty clear that kind of going with a more recognizable title was going to be the way to go. And I was actually the one who came up with Conjuring The Beyond. I think for a little bit it was Conjuring The Sleep Demon. And just throughout, I think it was actually while we were filming the movie that the title Conjuring The Beyond came to me. That Conjuring The Beyond, the title came to me. Mostly because of the Fulci film, The Beyond. I just kind of pushed those 2 titles together, and it had a nice ring to it.
We then have young Wanda here, who is signing up to be in a sleep study, and the doctor's name is Dr. Pretorius. So she's either going to end up as Frankenstein's bride or have an enlarged pineal gland. But I think it's the former, because his assistant is named Victor.
It's definitely Bride of Frankenstein is where the reference comes from. The assistant being Victor and Pretorius being the main doctor, the lead doctor, definitely comes from Bride of Frankenstein. There's even a throwaway line in there where Pretorius, played by Steve Larkin, says that his great-grandfather was quite famous. He was a doctor in Germany. That's clearly a reference to Dr. Pretorius from Bride of Frankenstein. There was one more I was trying to think of, but we were really trying to lean into some of those little Easter eggs. There's a couple of them in the movie.
She gets teamed up with a roommate and meets the doc and the 2 other test subjects, and he reveals that their main focus is on sleep paralysis and night terrors. And he plans to hypnotize them, and everyone is a touch hesitant, but agree to be studied. The doc suffered from sleep paralysis himself, and when the experiments begin, putting them into a dreamlike state, it turns out that they all end up seeing the same thing, a mysterious dark woman. And here's the deal, Clearly, this is not a part of the whole Conjuring universe. It's not from Blumhouse, and it's not connected in any way. But it's probably the only one on this list that managed to capture the feel of that series. It has the same vibe and the same pluses and negatives that come with that particular franchise. So was that intentional at all?
Not really. I mean, as you know, as an indie filmmaker and working for a company where we have very small budgets, the budgets go up a little bit each time, especially depending on how well the movie does. There's really just a push to do better each time, you know. So I think any aspects of it that may look like it's closer to a Blumhouse movie, I think just comes from myself and the rest of my crew really trying to get better, really watching and studying the last movie that we made, and just trying to take that next step up and get better and better and learn from mistakes, lighting mistakes, editing, how we use the camera, the different type of diffusion filters we might use on the camera. So any of that is just us trying to grow as filmmakers.
If you're a fan of the Conjuring universe, I think that you'll dig this, since it feels like a lost entry. If you're not into that general feel, then you'll most likely not going to enjoy this. But it has a cool monster and some decent scares and atmosphere. And Theo's the first one to go missing, leading into some demons showing up and even some zombie action. So there you have it, 10 movies, 10! Thanks to Calvin. Calvin, thank you for coming in and saving the list with Conjuring The Beyond. I appreciate that. And you actually have something that just came out and some things coming on in the near future, right?
Yeah, we've got a couple of things that are coming out. The movie right after Conjuring The Beyond, only a few months after, is Pillow Party Massacre. It's an 80s style slasher film, much like Slumber Party Massacre and Sorority House Massacre. And then coming out on September 5th is our next ripoff movie, Insidious Inferno. So maybe you're going to have to do an Insidious ripoff series. And right now we're working on our next film, which is a Boogeyman movie, Beware the Boogeyman. And it's produced by Breaking Glass yet again, Rich Wolf and Susan Helfrich over at Breaking Glass Pictures. So check it out.
Well, I've already seen Pillow Party Massacre, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'm looking forward to the other one. I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. I'm sure we'll be covering it in the near future on this channel as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button so that you can see more of it. And if you think about it, go to patreon.com/movietimelines and help support this channel. I certainly appreciate that. And I'll see you guys very, very shortly for another great video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.